She stood at the gate, a silk scarf wrapped loosely around her neck, her heels clicking against the stone driveway. The house was grand, but not as grand as the silence that fell when her parents opened the door. They hadn't seen her in 7 years. Not since they sent her off with a suitcase, a promise of education, and a secret they hoped would stay buried. But secrets don't stay buried forever, especially not when the one you betrayed comes back richer than you ever imagined. Amara had always been the quiet one in her family. Not shy, just observant. The kind of girl who watched more than she spoke, who picked up on the cracks in smiles and the weight behind silences. Growing up in a small town, she was known for her ambition. Teachers praised her. Neighbors beamed when they spoke of her. Her dream was clear: study medicine abroad and become a doctor. She didn't just want success. She needed it. It was her escape. Her parents, Raji and Florence, were respected in the community. Not wealthy, but far from poor. Her father owned a modest transport company, and her mother ran a tailoring shop out of their compound. They weren't flashy people, but they knew how to protect appearances. When Amara received an offer to study at a prestigious university overseas, it was celebrated as a victory not just for her, but for the whole family. Everyone assumed her parents had been saving for years. Only Amara knew the truth. They hadn't. She remembered the day the admission letter came. Her heart had nearly burst through her chest. She clutched it like a ticket to another world. Her eyes filled with tears when her father embraced her and said, "Your future starts now." Except it didn't. A week before her flight, she asked about the tuition. Raji assured her the money had been handled. Her visa, flights, and housing were all set, he claimed. But something in his voice wavered. And then came the moment that changed everything. It was late. The house was quiet. Amara had gone to the kitchen for water when she heard muffled voices from her parents' room. Florence was sobbing. "She doesn't know, Raji," she whispered. "We used it all, the school fees, the grant money, on that damn land. We had no choice," he hissed. "It was a once-in-a-lifetime deal. That plot will triple in value within 5 years. We'll pay her back. She doesn't need to know." Amara stood frozen. The glass in her hand trembled. Her vision blurred, not from sleep, but from betrayal. The next morning, she confronted them. At first, they denied it. Then Florence crumbled, begging her to understand. "We did it for the family," she cried. "That land will secure our future. Your future too." Raji remained silent, eyes cold, arms folded across his chest. Amara didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just nodded slowly and said, "All right." 3 days later, she boarded a bus to the city. Not a flight, not a plane, a bus, with just 60,000 Nigerian nairas in her account, a borrowed suitcase, and a broken heart. Amara arrived in Lagos with no place to stay and no one to call. The city was cruel, but it was honest. Unlike her family, it didn't pretend to care. She slept in church hostels and internet cafes for the first week. She used her skills, biology, chemistry, and a knack for learning fast, to tutor students preparing for exams. It was barely enough to eat, but she refused to return home. Something had cracked inside her. But it hadn't broken. It had hardened. One day, while waiting for a student in a crowded cafe, she overheard a group of young developers discussing a pitch for a medical app. Amara, curious and desperate for direction, joined their conversation. She asked questions, intelligent ones that made them pause. "You're a doctor?" one asked. "Not yet," she said. "But I should have been." They invited her to a workshop. That workshop changed her life. Amara immersed herself in the world of health tech. She learned coding from YouTube, sat in on free seminars, and took every online course she could afford. She slept less, worked more, and built a new dream from the ashes of the old one. Within 2 years, she was part of a startup team that created a telemedicine platform tailored for rural African communities. Investors loved it. So did international health organizations. She became a co-founder. She became wealthy, but she never went home. Not yet. Amara didn't plan to return for vengeance. She returned for control. The moment her car stopped in front of her parents' gate, the entire neighborhood stirred. A matte black SUV with tinted windows didn't exactly go unnoticed in a modest town like theirs. Eyes peeked through curtains. Rumors sparked like dry leaves catching fire. Who is she? Is that Florence's daughter? I thought she moved abroad? When the gate opened, Raji stood in the doorway. Gray now streaked his beard. His posture, once proud, was bent slightly, worn by age and consequence. Florence appeared behind him, clutching her wrapper, eyes wide with confusion. Amara? Her voice cracked. Is that you? Amara smiled, but it was cold. Hello, Mum. Dad. They stepped aside, stunned, letting her walk into the home that had once been hers. Nothing had changed. The floral couch, the cracked tile by the kitchen, the picture of her graduation, grade 6, still hung on the wall. You look, Florence began, but the words wouldn't come. Amara let the silence work its magic. It made them uncomfortable. It made them remember the confrontation. She sat down, legs crossed, her tablet in one hand. Raji cleared his throat. We've heard things, he said cautiously. Someone said you built a clinic near here. I did, Amara replied. A few, actually, across 5 states. Silence. Where did you get the money? Florence asked, nervously. From the education I never got, she said. From the betrayal I never forgot. Their faces fell. I survived. I built. I became everything you thought you could buy with my future. Raji straightened. We made a mistake, but you don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, she snapped. You wanted land. You got it. But that land. She tapped her tablet and flipped it toward them. I own the deeds now. Every property next to this house is under my name. She paused. Even this one. They blinked. What do you mean? Florence asked. Amara stood and walked to the window. The loan you took to finish this house? You used the land as collateral. It defaulted. I bought the debt. Months ago. You're lying, Raji growled. Check with Alhaji Yusuf, she said calmly. He handled the papers. The power shift. You bought our land? Florence whispered. No, Amara replied. I took back what you stole from me. She pulled out a slim folder and placed it on the table. Starting next month, you'll be paying rent. It's below market value. Consider it a gift. You want us to pay you to live here? Raji spat. No, she said. I want you to feel what I felt. Every single day for 7 years. A long pause. Then she walked to the door. Oh, she added. And you might want to keep the noise down at night. My tenants next door have a baby. The news spread like wildfire. By dawn, shopkeepers whispered. By noon, church elders were calling emergency prayer meetings. Did you hear Amara owns the land behind the clinic? No, she owns the whole street. They say she made millions from medicine tech. They say she made it with nothing but pain. Florence tried to hide her face at the market. But shame has a scent. And in small towns, people can smell it. Vendors who once offered her credit now looked away. Neighbors no longer waved from their porches. Even the pastor's wife kept her prayers polite, but short. At home, the silence between Raji and Florence was louder than any rumor. Raji paced, angry, embarrassed, trapped. She's punishing us, he muttered. This is about ego. Florence didn't answer. She stared at Amara's old bedroom door, still shut since her return. She hadn't stayed long, just a single night, but her presence lingered like perfume on old clothes, familiar, bitter, and haunting. That night, Amara sat alone in her hotel suite. Outside, the town was sleeping. Inside, her phone buzzed. A message from her assistant. Update. Local clinic expansion approved. Media interview rescheduled. She closed the screen, then opened an old photo, her and her parents, smiling, happy. Before, she remembered what it felt like to trust them. She remembered what it cost her. Flashback. 5 years ago, she was in a hospital lobby, waiting to pitch a health app to a group of foreign investors. Just before the meeting, she received a call from Florence. "We're sorry, Amara. Please forgive us." She had wanted to hang up, but she didn't. She listened, said nothing, and went on to deliver a pitch that changed her life. She never called back. Until now. Amara stared at the ceiling. Yes, she wanted them to feel guilt. Yes, she wanted them to understand what they stole. But deep down, she also wanted them to say something else. Not "we're sorry." Not "we did it for the family." She wanted them to say, "You did this on your own, and we were wrong to doubt you." But they hadn't. Not yet. The next morning, she received a call from the land office. A woman's voice. Nervous. Quiet. "Miss Raji? Someone's been trying to reverse the property documents on your parents' house. Claimed it was fraud." Amara's eyes narrowed. "Who?" "Anonymous application. Signed only with your father's initials." A long silence. Amara didn't speak. But the war had just escalated. Amara sat at the local cafe. Same one she'd slept near when she first came to Lagos. 7 years ago, she was broke, hungry, and invisible. Now, she was the headline of every hushed conversation in town. And this morning, she was there for one reason only: to meet a land office contact. He slid the manila folder across the table. Inside, a forged affidavit claiming the land transfer to her name was invalid. Manipulated under emotional distress. Signed with initials. Rar Raji Akand Raji. Her own father was trying to take it back. That evening, she returned to the house. No pretense. No smile. Florence opened the door, startled. "Where's Dad?" Amara asked flatly. "He's in the study," her mother replied, voice shaking. Amara didn't knock. She pushed open the door. There he was, her father, brows furrowed, documents spread across the table. "Why?" she said quietly. Raji didn't look up. "I gave you everything," she continued. "I let you live here. I kept your pride intact. And you repay me with fraud." Still no answer. So she dropped the folder on the table. "I could have you arrested." Now he looked up. His voice was low, cold. "You think you're above us now? Because you made money?" "No," she said. "I know I am. Because I did it without stealing someone else's future." Then Raji stood, slammed his hand on the desk. "You don't know the full story." Amara laughed bitterly. "No, I just lived it." "No," he said slowly. "You didn't." He opened a locked drawer, pulled out a yellowed envelope, and threw it on the table. She opened it. Inside, a faded medical report, a birth certificate, an international scholarship letter, addressed to her half-brother. Amara blinked. "Who is this?" Raji's shoulders sagged. "That's the son I had before you. In Ghana. He died at 14. We never told anyone. When your scholarship came, it brought back everything. Panicked. I didn't want to lose another child to fate." Amara stared, speechless. Florence stood in the doorway, tears on her face. "I didn't agree with it," she whispered. "But I stayed quiet." Amara sat down slowly. The weight of the truth hit like a falling roof. She had built her life on pain, but it hadn't come from greed alone. It had come from grief. That didn't excuse the betrayal, but it explained the cowardice. She closed the folder, looked her father in the eye. "You stole from me because you never healed from him." Raji nodded, barely. "I don't forgive you," she said, "but I understand now, and that's more dangerous." He looked up, confused. "Because now I know exactly what you're afraid of." 3 days had passed since Raji's secret was exposed. 3 days of silence in the house. No apologies. No meals together. No answers. Florence moved like a ghost, whispering prayers into empty rooms. Raji, once proud and untouchable, barely left his study. And Amara? She was planning her exit. She didn't want revenge anymore. That was too easy. What she wanted was to be unforgettable. She called for a family meeting. Raji and Florence sat across from her at the dining table, the same place where they once praised her for getting top marks in school. Only now the air was thicker, sharper. She laid out 3 documents in front of them. The first, a formal eviction waiver. They wouldn't have to pay rent. Not now. Not ever. The second, a land trust deed placing the house permanently in Florence's name. And the third, a letter. Raji reached for it, but Amara stopped him. "This one," she said. "You'll read last." Florence wept. Not loud, but the kind that comes from guilt that finally gets permission to leave your chest. Raji stared, stunned. "I don't understand," he said. "Why are you doing this?" Amara looked at them both. "Because it's over," she said. "And because holding a grudge makes you just as small as the people who hurt you." She paused, then added, "But make no mistake, this is not forgiveness. It's freedom." Amara stood and walked to the window. "I built clinics for children who never got their shot. I fund scholarships for girls whose parents saw them as options, not priorities. I took what you did and turned it into purpose." She turned back toward them. "That's my revenge." Later that night, Raji opened the letter. It wasn't long. Just 3 lines. "You taught me how to survive pain. Now I know how to end it. Goodbye, Dad." The next morning, Amara's car pulled out of the driveway. She didn't look back. Because when you win this kind of war, you don't carry trophies. You leave them behind. And as the town watched her drive away, one thing became clear. They didn't just lose a daughter. They lost the only person who ever truly knew how to build something from nothing.